You are not mentally weak. You are mentally untrained. There is a difference. Weakness implies something permanent. Untrained implies something fixable. And the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, spent their entire lives documenting exactly how to fix it. 10 lessons, the same ones they practiced every single day. The ones that allowed Marcus Aurelius to run the largest empire in history during plague, war, and betrayal, without breaking. Let's go. Lesson 1. Master the space between stimulus and response. Something happens. Someone says something harsh. A plan falls apart. Bad news arrives. Between that event and your reaction, there is a gap. Most people never notice the gap. The event happens and the reaction follows automatically, like a reflex. The Stoics trained that gap. Marcus Aurelius called it the ruling faculty, the part of the mind that evaluates before it reacts, the part that can look at an event and choose a response instead of producing one automatically. Here is the practice. Next time something triggers you, pause 3 seconds before you respond. Not to suppress the emotion, to observe it. To ask, is this response chosen or automatic? That 3-second pause is where your power lives. Everything else in this video builds on it. Lesson 2. Detach your ego from what happens. When something goes wrong, the ego has one immediate reaction. This means something about me. The harsh comment means I am inadequate. The failed plan means I am incompetent. The rejection means I am unworthy. None of that is true. The harsh comment is words. The failed plan is information. The rejection is one person's decision. Epictetus put it plainly. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. The event is neutral. Your interpretation of the event is where the suffering begins. And the interpretation is yours to examine. Here is the practice. When something difficult happens, separate what actually occurred from the story your ego added. Write both down if you need to. The event on one line, your interpretation on the next. Then ask, is the interpretation fact or assumption? Most of the time, it is assumption, and assumptions can be revised. Lesson 3. Protect your energy. You have a finite amount of attention every day. What you spend it on shapes who you become. Most people spend significant portions of their attention on things that cost them without returning anything. Pointless arguments, negative inputs, mindless scrolling, conversations that drain without contributing. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Your attention is the root of your strength. Whatever you expose it to, consistently, daily, over months and years, that is what your mind becomes. The practice is simple and unpopular. Start auditing what gets your attention. Not dramatically, practically. One thing this week that costs energy without returning it, remove or reduce it. That is where the capacity comes from for everything else on this list. Lesson 4. Kill your expectations before they kill your peace. Suffering has a specific mechanism. It is not produced by difficult events. It is produced by the gap between the event that happened and the event you expected. When reality matches your expectation, no problem. When reality diverges, the size of your suffering is proportional to the size of the gap. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He prepared for difficulty every morning, not because he was pessimistic, but because he was eliminating that gap in advance. When the ungrateful advisor arrived, he had already expected ingratitude. The gap was 0. The peace was intact. The practice, before any significant situation, anticipate the realistic difficulty, not the catastrophe, the realistic friction. See it clearly in advance. Accept it before it arrives. This is not low ambition. This is high preparation. There is a difference. Lesson 5. Turn pain into power. Pain is energy. Anger is energy. Frustration is energy. Uncontrolled, that energy damages. It explodes outward at the wrong targets, or it turns inward and consumes you. But energy can be redirected. The Stoics did not teach emotional suppression. They taught emotional sublimation, the transformation of raw internal force into directed action. When Epictetus was enslaved, he had every reason for destructive anger. He converted it into one of the most powerful philosophical minds of the ancient world. The pain did not disappear. It was redirected. The practice, identify the emotion underneath the reaction, not the behavior, the energy driving it. Then ask, Where can this energy be directed that actually moves something forward? The answer to that question is where the obstacle becomes the path. Lesson 6. Stop overthinking by returning to the present. Anxiety is almost always about a future that does not exist yet. The meeting that might go badly. The conversation that might be difficult. The outcome that might be wrong. Might. The Stoics had one prescription for this. Return to what is actually happening right now. Not what could happen. What is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. The present moment is almost always manageable. It is the accumulated imagined futures that become unbearable." The practice. When you notice overthinking beginning, ask one question. What is actually happening right now? Not what might happen. What is? Describe it specifically. The answer is almost always, right now, in this moment, something manageable is happening. The catastrophe is in the projection. Return to the present. The overthinking cannot survive there. Lesson 7. Stop needing approval. When your sense of your own worth depends on other people's reactions to you, you have handed control of your internal state to people who are not qualified to hold it. Most people do not think carefully about you. They are thinking about themselves. The opinion you are seeking validation from was formed quickly, partially, and without full information. Epictetus said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish. Seek instead to be the kind of person whose wishes are properly formed." The internal standard. The standard you hold yourself to privately, without audience, without applause. That is the only standard that produces durable confidence. External validation fluctuates. Internal standard is yours. The practice. Identify the one area where you are most seeking external validation right now. Then ask, what would I do differently if no one would ever know? The answer to that question is your actual direction. Lesson 8. Learn to sit with yourself. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, with being alone, with no input, no stimulation, no distraction. Because in silence, the mind shows you what is actually there, the unresolved concerns, the doubts, the things you have been avoiding by keeping the feed on. The Stoics considered this essential, not comfortable, essential. Because a mind that cannot sit with itself is a mind that is being controlled by everything it is trying to avoid. The practice, 10 minutes daily, no phone, no music, no input. Sit with whatever arrives. Do not solve it. Observe it. Write it down if it helps. The act of observing your own mind, consistently, without judgment, produces a clarity that nothing else does. You cannot understand something you are always running from. Lesson 9. Stop letting small things control you. Perspective is a skill, and most people are terrible at it. A minor inconvenience absorbs an hour of attention. A small frustration colors the rest of the day. A trivial comment lives in the mind for a week. Marcus Aurelius had a practice he called the view from above. When something felt overwhelming, he would pull his perspective back, see himself in the room, then the building, then the city, then the empire, then the planet, then history. From that height, almost nothing was as large as it felt at close range. The practice. When something is consuming more of your attention than it deserves, ask one question. Will this matter in 1 year? Most of the time the answer is no. The answer alone adjusts the allocation of attention. Save the full weight of your focus for the things that actually warrant it. Lesson 10. Become the observer, not the reactor. This is the lesson that contains all the others. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness watching them. The thought arrives. You notice the thought. The emotion arises. You notice the emotion. The reaction wants to run. You notice the impulse. Between noticing and acting is where everything in this video lives. Epictetus called this prohairesis, the faculty of choice. The capacity to look at what is happening inside you and decide what to do about it rather than simply being carried by it. This is not detachment. This is sovereignty. The difference between a person whose internal state is produced by external events and a person who produces their internal state themselves. The practice. When something triggers you today, before you respond, label what is happening. I am noticing anger. I am noticing anxiety. I am noticing the urge to defend. The labeling creates distance. The distance creates choice. The choice is where freedom lives. 10 lessons. One principle underneath all of them. You cannot control what happens to you. You can control how you process it, what you make of it, and what you do next. Marcus Aurelius did not have easier circumstances than you. He had better practices, developed over decades, applied every day, in conditions that had no right to be survivable. The practices are here. They are not complicated. They require repetition. Pick one lesson, the one that felt most relevant to where you are right now. Apply it today. Not perfectly, just once. That is where it starts. If this gave you something useful, subscribe. Stoicism every week. No motivation, no fluff, just what actually holds up.